Thanks for stopping by. I'd like to preface this video by saying it is not a knitting tutorial, but a means to have something playing in the background while you work on your own knitting project. If you're like me and really enjoy YouTube, you find that a lot of the content you watch is very visually engaging, and you're several hours in and have only watched videos and haven't gotten nearly as far in your project as you would have liked. So that's where I come in. So if you're new here, welcome, and if you're returning, welcome back. Thank you so much for tuning in once more. This particular video, I'm thinking I'm going to add it to my Knit Ahead for the Holiday series, so if you see it in that playlist, then it is there. Otherwise, I'm not sure if this qualifies because it's actually not really part of the big gift giving mad dash I have. I'm not sure how well to describe it, but if you are returning or new, I have a Knit Ahead for the Holiday series. It's also part of a playlist in which I am pushing myself to finish all of my holiday knitting for this year, 2019 year, and here it is the 16th of November, and I have about 2.5 projects left. I may have underestimated that the last time we were together, but I have one pair of socks that I just finished, so yay for me. I have another pair of socks that I'm working on right now, and that's the armchair socks that I have in the playlist. And then I have my Chevy wrap that you saw not too long ago, and a really big blanket that I'm working on. And there's lots of stuff going on with those, and you'll probably hear more about that next week. But for this video, I am going to be working on a project for one of my friends. I have a scarf that I've already made for her, and it's this scarf here, and I haven't woven in my ends yet because I hate doing that. If you've watched any of my earlier videos, I did go on a little mini rant about weaving and ends and how it's not the funnest part of the project that I particularly think. So I've held that off on that, and I honestly haven't looked at this scarf in about 6 or 7 months. It's been a long time since I last knit it and finished it, but it's just a simple, I have a little garter stitch border here, and then it's just stockinette in the middle, so the back is very plain, but I honestly did not like using this yarn. I may have mentioned, I'm not sure what video it was, but I did mention that I got this yarn. This is the homespun yarn by Lion Brand, and it was given to me from a coworker who received it from another coworker. And so the first coworker bought 2 of these balls, and she tried to use it, didn't like it, and gave it to one of my other coworkers, who is the one I actually gave a lot of scrap yarn to last week. And she also did not want to use this yarn, and I was still very new into my knitting journey, and she said, hey, I have this yarn, so-and-so gave it to me, would you like it? And I said, sure, not even knowing what it was, but she just had the bag with her, and she just handed it over, and I looked at it, and I was like, whoa, like, this is crazy yarn to me, because it's all ripply, and I particularly don't care for it because, one, it kind of like, you can see it more so where I'm actually knitting, but it kind of bunches up sometimes, and then you have to kind of like pull it to get it to go back to its normal shape. So that's kind of weird. Plus, it's very splitty, and the picture on the wrapper makes it look very appealing, I would say, but I don't like knitting with this at all, which is why I just said, let me use the entire ball, make this scarf, call it a day. And then I was like, oh yeah, I still have another ball I have to use. And anyone I would think that I could give this yarn to has already given me a lot of their de-stash, so I can't really like say, hey, would you like some more yarn, because they're giving me yarn because they're trying to get rid of their yarn. And I don't know any other knitters in my small knitting community that I know of here that would want it. So I don't want it to go to waste. I think if I have any left over, I'll save it for some other crafts where I'm not knitting. Maybe make some coffee cozies, maybe some cute little coasters or some placemats, maybe. But if I can't get like 2 hats out of this, or maybe even a cow with the rest, because I'm sure this hat isn't going to take up, I already know this hat's not going to take up this whole ball of yarn, but I want it out of my house. I don't want to knit with it anymore, but I figured I could at least make a hat to match this scarf, get some more of this yarn out, and add to my friend's gift. So before I started filming, I did cast on. I had to cast on 88 stitches, and I have to knit 12 rounds of 1x1 rib. And to give you an idea of what I'm actually knitting, it is the Swoop Beanie by Knit Picks. This is a free download. I found it on Ravelry, but you can also go directly to the Knit Picks site and download this pattern as well. And it's using their, what do you call it? Chroma. So Knit Picks Chroma Twist Bulky. And I'm just using this homespun bulky yarn that I have, but this pattern looks pretty interesting. I wanted to make sure I could find a pattern, and I used Ravelry's filters to search for bulky yarn patterns for hats that are knit in the round, because I have knit 2 hats where I had to seam in, or not seam in, but seam both ends together using mattress stitch, and I did not like that. I do not like seaming in ends. I do not like weaving. Anytime I have to incorporate that needle, line things up, make things hidden, I don't want it. I just want to knit, and I want it to be done. So raise your hand if you're like that, where you don't like to seam, you don't like to weave in, you just want to knit and have it nice and pretty, one piece, and not have to worry about using your eyeballs or clips to make sure everything's nice and lined up. It's just very nerve-wracking for me, because even though I'm not a perfectionist, I kind of am. At least if I'm going to finish it all the way, I want the very last piece of it to look very good as well. And if I can't line it up right, I just don't feel comfortable. And you'll see later on in another video where I kind of talk about the projects that I've worked on for the Knit Ahead for the holiday series as a whole, and everything I finished, and what I'm sending off for that. But enough with that. So this is knit in the round using bulky weight yarn and size US 8 or 5 millimeter needles. I also need, it says US size 8 16-inch circular needles and DPNs. So I need to make sure I find my size 8 DPNs. But you also need a yarn needle, stitch marker, cable needle, and one 12 millimeter pom-pom. I guess I could use a pom-pom. I'm thinking I can just make a pom out of the yarn. Yeah, so all of this information is on the pattern, and it comes written as well as chart form, so you know what your stitches look like. And yeah, it explains how to make the twist, which you do need the cable needle just to hold your stitch off before you knit it back, so that you get this the swoopy pattern that they're talking about here. But otherwise pretty simple. And I am going to be bringing this with me, heads up. Okay, so I'm starting at round 2, by the way, and the stitch marker I'm using is from one of the shops I visited during my yarn crawl over the summer, and I thought I'd just use that because it's nice and it kind of has the same color scheme as the yarn. Oh, and by the way, the homespun yarn is 100%, oh no, I lie, it's 98% acrylic, 2% polyester, so synthetic. But what was I going to say? Oh yeah, so later this week I'm going to be out of town. I'm going to a conference out of state, and it's just 2 full days, but there's like this little reception, meet and greet kind of thing, mingle, networking portion before anything begins on the night I fly in. And I was thinking, okay, I need to bring a project with me to work on, because one, I'm going to be at my hotel for a bit of that, you know, when I first fly in, after the reception, before I wind down for bed, and then when I come home at night after the first day, because on Friday I fly right back home after the last bit of programming. So I'm literally there 2 nights, but not even like a full day that Friday. And so I knew last year I went to this conference as well, and I brought the one row scarf that I showed you guys in my last video. And so I was working on that there. That scarf went with me so many places while I was working on it. But I'm gonna bring this here with me so that I can work on something that isn't too big. So it's not the big blanket. I'll have my other sock done by the time I leave. And I have my wrap, the Chevy wrap, but I have to add yarn to it. So I just started a new ball of yarn, but depending on how, I just don't want to underestimate that I would be able to add another ball of yarn while I'm there and not have it with me, or have to bring 2 balls of yarn and not need the other one yet, because I'm trying to travel light. Last year I only brought a carry-on to put in the overhead bin and my personal item, which was kind of 2 because I had my purse inside of my back, like my duffel bag that I had under my seat. And this year I'm going to kind of do the same thing so that I don't have to bring a wheelie suitcase and I don't have to check a bag or anything like that. And what's going on? Alright, this is getting weird. Is this a knit and a purl? This should be a knit. Is it split? What have I done? Oh no. See, this is one of the reasons why I don't like this yarn, because it's weird. And I can't tell what happened. Like, what? What is this? What is this? Oh. I think I'm going to... My God. Alright. Let's see. Because this yarn is so fluffy, it's really hard to tell like what's happening with it. I think I may have accidentally added 2 together, but it should show up as just 1 if that's the case. Okay, no. It is a knit. It's just weird. It's weird. This yarn's weird. I don't like this yarn. Oh, the struggles. Alright, so it should behave itself now. But yeah, it's oh, that's right. Okay, so what happened is I now that it's coming back to me, I did this hack that I found on Sheep and Stitch, I think is the channel. But they said, hey, instead of having a really long tail when you cast on, you can just start knitting with the tail and the working yarn together. And so that's kind of where this bit is coming from, because I used it all the way around. So it does look like they're 2 stitches as one, because I used both. I did like a double thread or double strand when I was knitting around. So that's why I'm confusing myself, because it is thicker there, and that's because I just didn't want to weave in such a long end or cut it off and waste it, because I started to cast on first, which is, I'm glad that I didn't do it while I was on camera, because I was like, oh, I'll just cast on and do like a speed up part of that, but I didn't pull out enough yarn. So when I got to like 50 cast on stitches, I had like 0 yarn left, so I had to rip that out, add more length, cast on again my 88, but then I had a super long tail that time, and I didn't want to cut it, so I figured I would just knit with it around until I got just a little bit of a tail. So that's where we are. And that's why I'm looking at it crazy, because it's thick right there. And it's such a funky yarn that it's not really that noticeable that it's thick in those spots. And I did that too when I did my, when I did the color block cowl. If you guys have watched that video or that particular video set of the series, I cast on and then just kept knitting around with that tail until I didn't have as much left. But yeah, I am preparing for this trip. It's not even that long. It's just like 2 half days about and 1 full day, but 2 full days of programming. And I also have a meeting I have to call in for at work while I'm there. And I don't have a laptop, like a work laptop, so I have to just use my phone and take like notes with me that I've written down from the previous meetings so I can contribute to this phone call. And oh, it's just a day, or it will just be a day of that day. And that's the first, well, it's the second day I'm there, but the first full day of programming. So as soon as we're done with all of that, I have to just run back to my hotel room and get settled in and ready for this phone call. So I don't know if we're going to do FaceTime or if we're going to do just me on the phone and it's going to be conference room style or what with my other teammates of this particular meeting group we're having. And then at work, I have just 2 days, but it's really jam-packed because we have a lot going on, and I have a lot going on that I have to prepare for before I leave, which happens like anytime I'm out of town, on vacation. Even like 1 day off is like a really big deal because of all the stuff that goes on there that I am responsible for. And I just have to prepare to make sure things run smoothly while I'm not at work. And I found out I may be traveling for Thanksgiving this year. My partner's family has invited him and I to eat Thanksgiving with them, and they're not too sure if they want to go, and I need to know because I may or may not have something going on at work, like little banquet things, so I don't want to RSVP if there's not going to be any kind of event. And then I do want to RSVP if we're not going, so I don't sit here hungry because everything's going to be closed. And I really don't want to cook like that. I haven't in a while because of the thing at my job, but at the same time, it's just a lot to do for one person. Or 2 people, but 1 person doing all the cooking is a lot. Especially because I have a tiny kitchen, so I have to really coordinate what I'm cooking when, what I'm cooking the night before, that's going to, heat up nice. I can't say, hey everybody, bring these other dishes. I don't have that many friends that aren't doing stuff with their own families that day. So, and then our one friend who lives out of state would come over, as I mentioned before, and they would bring like a dessert, but I would still be in charge of cooking all of the main dishes. Which reminds me, just to talk about food in general, I'm kind of getting myself hungry because I'm filming now, but I should be cooking dinner. And I'm making chicken and dumplings. I haven't had that in a long time, and I'm not doing it like slow cooker. I'm just cooking it in a regular pot on the stove. But it's just one of my favorite comfort foods. I used to, my partner doesn't like to go there, but my family growing up, we loved Old Country Buffet. Do you live by one? Have you been there before? I know it's a simple place to go. Like if you're not too picky, you can find a lot of stuff there to eat. And I particularly loved at least the dishes that I would like, or like the cobbler, like peach cobbler, the pear crisp, the apple crisp, and the chicken and dumplings that they had. Like, oh, the dumplings are so fluffy and delicious, and that was like my favorite when we would go there. That, and I actually like the fish fillets, like the little, just like fish sticks you'd get like Van Camp or whatever. But I liked those too. But my partner does not like Old Country Buffet, so don't go. I wish we did go, but it's been a long time. And yeah, but yes, chicken and dumplings on the menu tonight. And I've had my heart on, or I've had my mind set on making these um, banana bread brownies, square thingies. I saw a friend of mine shared the recipe on Facebook because they saw it and they thought it would be really delicious. And I was like, oh, I love banana bread and I like brownies too. And combining the two would be fun. And of course, I wouldn't like make a whole tray for myself, but every now and then I like to bake treats or something and bring them into my job to share with my coworkers. And I thought that would be a nice one to bring. Now that it's colder outside, I'm more motivated to bake, to turn my oven on and have it nice and toasty in my house. So I'll see about that. But that'll be when I come back, since, you know, today's Saturday and it's Saturday evening. And tomorrow I'm planning on doing like a deep clean so that while I'm gone I don't have to worry about the house being all weird and gross. So I'll do like a good mop and a good sweep and dust. So I don't really plan on cooking on that day, but baking maybe when I come back next weekend. I'll head up to the store and get some ingredients for that, because I don't do banana stuff that often, but I'd love to try something different. And this other time I brought to work a banana coffee cake. So I love coffee cake with a little streusel on top, like a crumble. So good. And I love banana bread. So I found a recipe that combined the two, and I brought that in, I think, for my birthday last year. There was something. Either it was my birthday or it was like my work anniversary, like work anniversary. And I didn't celebrate this year, but I was super, super busy. So I didn't bring anything in to celebrate my work anniversary this year. But I like to do stuff like that. So we'll see about that banana bread. And the more I think about it, the more I really just want to do it. But I have no time right now this weekend. And I'm debating on how I'm going to get to the airport for this conference. I usually take public transit, but it takes forever. So I'd have to wake up super early to catch my flight on Wednesday, but at the same time, it'd give me a chance to knit while I'm on my way. But because it's also a weekday morning, I run into the work rush. So at some point, I get so squishy on the public transit that I can't move my arms that much, so then I have to just looking for my row counter. Then I just can't knit anymore and I have to just sit there. So that's not so fun, but I also don't want to spend a lot of money on a taxi. Oh, excuse me. I don't want to spend so much money on a taxi cab, because even though I get reimbursed for it for work expense conference transportation, I don't have that much travel budget for work, and in case something else happens before the end of the year, I want to make sure I can use my travel budget to go without having to pay for it out of pocket. So I had to double check with the manager of the funds to see if my allowance has been capped out with the hotel and the ticket and the registration fee for this conference. It's already probably around $600 or $700, and then transportation while I'm there to and from the hotel to the airport, on my way back home, as well as food. I usually don't spend that much on the food. I think last year I went to this place and got pho for lunch the night I got there, and dinner was catered at the event. Lunch and breakfast are covered, but the first day of programming that night, I was responsible for my own dinner, and I went to the grocery store because I really just wanted sun chips, beef jerky, a Coke, and some M&Ms, and that's what I had for dinner. I was like, so just like, this is the one time I can just buy this stuff, eat it for dinner without, having to worry about cooking somebody else's dinner. So we'll see about that. I'm further away from that store this time, but it is kind of on the way. I could probably, if the weather's nice, I could probably just walk it back home or back to the hotel from there, but we'll see. Oh yeah, and I'm so proud of myself. I managed to fit all of my makeup in this bag for travel. And I'm actually wearing all of it right now. I figured I'd do my makeup because I want to make sure I could still do I haven't traveled in since last year without a wheelie bag. And so no. When I went to the wedding in Texas, I brought a wheelie bag because my partner and I shared a suitcase. And so I was able to have a lot of makeup with me and extras and stuff like that. But when I went to the conference last year, I only brought mascara and lipstick and kept it really simple because it was my first time doing all the things, walking around, and I didn't know what to expect as far as weather and, walking and getting sweaty and gross and not being able to reapply while I was at the event. But this year, I'm just doing really simple stick foundation, powder, this lippy, mascara, eyeliner, some blush and highlighter, but it's all stick stuff except for the powder, and the mascara, brows, and all that. So I'm ooh, I'm into this. I'm into this easy breezy makeup. And of course I like to wear it, but I don't want to do a full beat because it's just a conference. I'm going to be looking at people on a stage most of the time anyway, but as far as just for me and what I like to look like, I do a little something. It doesn't have to be full glam, of course, because I don't really do that unless I'm going out, but for everyday looks, just some color on the lips, some mascara, a little bit of face complexion, and shadow. Oh yeah, I have a little baby eyeshadow. It's so cute. It's actually a bronzer, but it's, I'm not a bronzer person, but it makes a great eyeshadow. So, bronzer is essentially eyeshadow just in a big old palette or pan form anyway. A lot of this stuff is just eyeshadow that's renamed as another part of your face. But you guys might already know that, but I was just a lot of this stuff is just eyeshadow in a big pan. Whether it's matte or if it's satin or shimmer, it's all eyeshadow. So yeah, I am on round 3 right now, and so I have to do, I think I already told you guys, but yeah, 12 rounds of rib, 1 round of knit, and then I get into the pattern where I'm starting the swoop. So if I get just the rib part done before I fly out, that'll make the rest of it pretty easy. I just have to remember to bring my other tools I need, like my cable needle. But that should be it. And next week, when I get back, you'll probably see another video on Saturday. I have an eye appointment in the city, right when I get back. I get back, and I probably get home around midnight, and then I have my city appointment in the early afternoon, so around 8 or 9, I'll be right back on public transit, head into town to make sure I go to my eye doctor. But as soon as I get back home, you'll see a video. And I'll bring my, well, I have my phone with me anyway, but I'll try to add some shots of my journey to my conference and maybe just a little bit of me knitting in my hotel or something, so you guys have some added content to whatever I have next week. So we'll see about that. We'll see how the lighting and everything works out. And my phone wanting to cooperate with me, and I don't know if I'll have a window seat or not, because I have to pick my seat once I get there. I think it's assigned to me when I fly or when I check in, so I'm not paying to pick my seat. I don't go get all these upcharges. Like, I'm not checking my back because I don't want to pay $30 or $60 total both ways. I don't want to pick my seat. I don't want extra legroom. I don't want a meal. I just want to get there and get back without being nickel and dime. So, and I'm not even flying Spirit this time. Thank goodness, because I'm done. I'm done with them. I just can't. I can't. Some people don't mind it, but every time I've flown Spirit, there's always been some kind of problem, and I just hate that I have to keep paying for all this other stuff. I mean, the basics I have to keep paying for. So, that's me. Alright, so we're still just knitting around. Nothing too fancy, but I did want to check in with you guys and let you know what's coming up for the next week. And thank you so much for stopping by. And I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.